right, hey guys, Sam here with you. We're going to take a deeper dive here on Binance coin to the dollar tether. Of course, all the polling's in. This is what you guys asked for. So there's some interesting things here. Well, so here's our January highs. Now, it looks like a fairly solid A. There's some complexity in the B. You may probably count this a couple of different ways. But just doing basic TA here, we grab the length of the A, looking for the retrace here. So you see some reaction here at the 50, and they come up just a few in front of the golden zone. That certainly looks like that's algo's defending here. Now, what's interesting is that we don't get target here. So the algo target would be down here at $1, and it looks like we're past the point where that could be threatened. Although, you can't ignore it, right? So don't forget that that's down there. This is a little tricky in here, and again, I suppose you could count. There's probably several different ways to count this, but because this is the key pivot here, because of this, and because I can get 5 coming down, now it looks a little wonky here, and you're at first glance it looks like, oh, maybe that 1 is too long, but if you just look here, we go just far enough. So the proposed third here is longer than the 1, but it looks like, of course, all the extension is in the 5th. To get the subdivision to work, you've got to go this. Of course, this looks very much like Bitcoin, where we had this. And it looks like it's a flat. So you've got to go, as this is the pivot here. You got to go with this as your 2. Well, you don't have to, but that's what I think is the better count here. That we've got a 1, 2, 3. We get a clear 4, and then we're down for that 5. So I think there's no reason. See, it's tempting to do this and come down here and I'll pull it lower. But I think because that's unresolved and because of how precise this was here, that I'm not ready to move that here. I'm interested to see what the reaction is here at the 50. So of course we've got all of these prior wicks up here in this supply area here. Now, that's to get all of it, you've got a pretty fat range up here. But it looks like this is a reasonable spot. So as we dig into the count on this impulse coming up here, looks like this is a spot that would fit with some of the fib projections here that would give you a target for the 5th. So I leave this as it is. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So if this is our 1, so with this established here, so what's an easy way to do this? Let me do it this way. Let me just put a line here on our 50, and I'm going to pull this off just so we clear up the chart. So down over here to where we started here, I'm going to go down to the 1 hour here so we can look at this. This is a little tricky down here. So right off the bat, we get a leading diagonal into the 1, just perfect shape, right? As I was saying over on the shorter version on Twitter, this is damn near like just out of an Elliott playbook. So we've got a clear 5 here. So we get a motive wave, we get a leading diagonal for the 1, 1, 2. Now, because there's a very slight overlap here, as you can see it. So this is the 1. We get just a few pennies through, but it's enough to where we have to now view this as a diagonal. So you're looking for some confluence down here. So as always the case with a diagonal, we look for the start of the 1 through the pivot, get it right on there, of the 3. So we're right in the pocket where you're looking for a reaction here, whether you're thinking Elliott or not, or just dominant swing low to swing high. Still not quite right on that. Okay, so we get a little, now the A is you've got to go down. I think I went down to a 30-minute to get the dig there. Let's see, we tried on a 15. It's tricky on that. Bear with me a sec. So here you've got to get the 1, 2. Well, it's a couple of different ways you could do it. So I think you can go. You've got to go 1, 2, 3. So here, shit, you can barely see it. Here's you got to be your 3, 4. So I think you can count it. So you'd have a diagonal. So you'd have to do it this way. So coming off of this pivot, it looks like we can go 1, 2, 3, tiny little triangle 4. We come down for the 5, so we get our A wave here. Now it looks to me like we go into an expanded flat, so we get a 3, 3, 5, A, B, C, A, B, C. Then we get another diagonal into the B here. So we get our correction here, although it's relatively shallow for a B wave here, but I think it can still fits. All right, so then we get our 1, 2. This gets a little dicey. You got to go. You can't do it because this won't be long enough. So this was always the tricky bit here. So if this is the 1 and that's the 2, well, this is just barely too short. So here's your high probability zone for your third. Here's your 1618, 175 pocket. So, it's a bit of a, they break down. They all break down at some point here. So it's really, you'd have to be down at the 2 minute, 3 minute to try and dig 5 out of there. So, you look at this and you go, well, why does it matter considering where we've gone? Well, I understand that here. You want to try and get the subdivision to work. And while it's a bit of a push here on this 5, I mean, you can barely get it, but you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's just barely there. So A, B, C into the 4. There's the bottom of the 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's there. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's there. So why does it matter? Well, it helps us define where we come at, what happens next. So if this is correctly identified as the 1, let me get that right on there. So if we've got it here now correctly spotted, so this becomes our dominant 1 off of so we get a leading diagonal into the second 1. So we go 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, of course, this is with all the benefit of, you wouldn't know that was coming. If you're over here, you're just trying to figure out what's most probable. So the impulse here, this is clear. So even when you're sitting here at this point, it would have been a tough call here to nail that as an ABC, given the shallow and the kind of ugly C. But once it starts to go, you're kind of out of choices here. So you wouldn't have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it puts you in a position where if it's going to be given the depth of that retracement through process of elimination, it looks like you got to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now once we get all of this action here, then it becomes fairly evident that that's what we've got. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. So is it technical? I'm just grabbing this low here. So I just showed this over on Twitter. So whoops, sorry, I don't want that yet. So we get a little slop around the golden zone. You get some wicks coming through it. Now, as you look and you say, okay, well, so an algo would be stopped out, right? That's right. So the algo is going to take the first retrace on the way back. So as it comes up here, and then they're stopped out again. But again, don't feel bad for them. They'll tee up for the next 50, which they get. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, are we technical here? So we got to check this, right? Just standard ops. You want to check all these to help identify those probability zones. Well, here's your high probability zone for your third here. We get through it, but you've got enough subdivision to give you a clear impulse here. So we don't have to go to the 1618, 175 pocket. So we get a little extra juice in it. So from that, I think this looks fairly solid as a 4. So just standard ops, if the 2 is correctly identified, we're going to pull in for the 2 to the 3, see the length of that. Well, let's get it right on there. So it looks like you're to the tick on the 38. So once more, just gives you more confidence that at least from this pivot, the 1, 2, 3, 4 looks very solid. Here's the algo target. They get that easily. So now it starts to come together. So it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, ABC into the 4. So measuring from the higher degree into the 3 pivot. So again, now we're a little shy. We're right in the pocket where you'd expect it between the 23.6 and the 38. We don't quite make the 38. Now it gives us this nice trend line here, but we're right where you'd anticipate it. So man, pretty clear count here. I mean, just bucking the trend in all of crypto. We've got a nice, solid trend underway. Very technical, beautiful Elliott subdivision. I mean, it's just, you can't ask for much more than this. So getting through this target. Now, second target up here looks interesting. And then we have this pivot, this line that I drew. That's the 50 from where we started, where we drew the length of the A. So I think if I pull back out to that 8 hour and try and put this all back together, it looks like we're likely to be approaching some resistance up here. So just to show you that again. So grabbing that pivot here down to this A. Because this is technical and this remains unresolved, I think there's a reasonable probability to expect a reaction here at this 50, even though you're not going to know until you absolutely see it. It's not like you're terribly far off here, but my inclination is to stay here because of this. See, if I come down here, right now we're in the golden zone, so it's still, it's just a judgment call. No way to know. Could they have moved? Of course, yeah, we don't know. We won't know until we see what the reaction is. But I think this works. So the other thing that I notice here, so if we're coming up to this, so the second algo target off of the 4 here, we get this nice confluence zone where we've got of course, we've got this secondary channel here. We've got the secondary algo target at the -618, and then we've got the 50 from the length of the A. So you've got a nice cluster up here. Oh, let's call it $15 just to round it out. Now, any market geometry? Well, you can't ignore some of the things here. So this looks kind of interesting. So putting that there, so you see this confluence here where we've got all of these components teed up here to suggest that this is a reasonable spot to expect at the very least a reaction. So if you were long in this and you're looking for a reasonable target, you've got enough things stacking up there to suggest that this $15 mark is a place to anticipate at the very least maybe a reaction and perhaps the start of a deeper correction. So if we do get that, let's clear the whole thing up. So with all of that off and this off, so let's assume we get up to this confluence point. It'd be a reasonable spot to take at the very least a partial profit. So I'll just use this line that we drew. So from that, you would anticipate here, because we hit the median line, maybe something along these lines to bring us down into this zone, and then we're looking for the big push up on the 3. Well, so that would be the big third. Well, of course, it's all relative to where it's going, but you certainly would have a candidate here for a third, which is, would be worth waiting for. So if you're not in this is certainly one to be keeping an eye on and set some alerts. So if you're long, boy, and you're trailing with a stop, you might be pushing your luck a little bit up here. So we look at the oscillators here. So we're getting pretty extreme here. Now, we do not have divergence. So I'd have to go down. Let me go down. Let's go to a 1 hour here. And now there we're going to see a little bit of divergence here. So if we open this up. So if the 3 is in and we've had this little, it's a bit of a judgment call here as to where that 3 is, because you've essentially got a double top here, but there's a little ABC. If that's the 4 and we're just going to keep going, then that looks it's a reasonable spot that this sideways motion here is likely the 4. So we've got, not that where we're sitting here at 1375, not that much further to go. So at some point, there's a reasonable probability here that we're going to start to weaken. You can see it already in the oscillator. So potentially now some pretty substantial divergence. You can see it both in the Elliott oscillator, the who's in control, and then the RSI as well. Now we could certainly keep going here. Now this, getting up here, I'm not saying sell it now, but I'm saying if you're long, I'd be trailing with a stop maybe underneath this pivot. If you want to give it maximum room, I would. If it's me, I'm taking a partial up here if I'm long, because I don't want to set up for 50% of that to be given back. So if this is gonna go and get up to this confluence point up here and complete this nice 1/5 of the 5th, for me, I'd be looking to take at least half off here, anticipating the retracement. It will come at some point. We'll get a retracement here. So if we put that all back together again, let me get. Let's go try a 4 hour here. It's just beautiful looking, just beautiful, right? So yesterday I'm bitching about how poor the trading is in crypto, and you do have a few standouts, and this would certainly be the best of the bunch. So at some point here, with retracement likely to start. So just swing low, swing high. This is the spot that I'd want to know about. So coming back here to this range would be of interest to me. So if we tag it here and start this process of coming down here, I would sure want to know about anything hitting here. So here's the 3/4 of a degree of the secondary degree lower, most common spot for that retracement. Look how that lines up nicely with the 50 to the 618. So that's a must take if we get this kind of action down here. So I'd want to know. It's a reasonable spot. Just set an alert maybe right here at the pivot of the proposed 3rd here. I'd want to, as we approach that, I'd want to know about it so I was ready. I wouldn't miss it. So keep an eye on this one. It's really nice to see something in crypto trending here and trading technically. So likely we're going to hit some resistance up here, but this is absolutely one to watch. All right, guys, that's all I got for now.